Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with an update of my Metalfoes deck. I'll be honest, I didn't know what I wanted to do with this deck for a while because when we lost Astrograph Sorcerer, it kind of looked like things were going downhill for this deck once again, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to replace in the main deck. I mean, obviously Baobaboon is still a thing and I could throw in 3 of those, but it felt kind of cheap to just do that. But then I realized now we have Summon Sorceress, which, if you look at this little setup here, they're both psychics, so that's 3 link ratings of monsters that add up to the same type, and we end up having 𝗵𝗏𝗄𝐿 replace herself as well to give us a psychic Metalfoes monster, so now Summon Sorceress can trigger her effect. So nice little combo, got me re-inspired, tweaked the extra deck a little bit since we ended up losing 𝗿𝖇𝖊𝖊𝖓𝐿 Absolute Dragon and Vortex Dragon that we were playing off of Metalfoes Volflame and Astrograph Sorcerer. But I still think this deck is doing quite nicely, and with Baobaboon in the mix now, there's some other cool things we can do in this deck as well. So more tweaks than anything else, but at the same time, I think these nuances really make for an interesting update to the strategy, especially if it's something that you've seen before. And if not, hey, there's a quick tutorial at the beginning of this video, so hopefully that'll get you up to speed. But anyway, this is going to be a let's build as always, so I'll go through and explain all my choices and reasonings, but if you just want to see the completed list, that's at the end of the video. Feel free to check out the table of contents I put in the description box because that has a timestamp that takes you to the different sections and you'll be able to jump to just the deck profile if you'd like to see that. I always have that for your convenience. And then if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to go back to the middle part of the video where hopefully I've done a decent job giving my reasoning. So without further ado, let's build Metalfoes. The first step in building any deck is to establish the theme and to develop the deck's core. But essentially, we have 2 scale 1 Metalfoes normal monsters and 2 scale 8 Metalfoes normal monsters. And so between these guys, you can actually summon any of these through a Pendulum summon because they're all level 2, 3, 4, and 7. They all have the exact same Pendulum ability, and that's once per turn you could target another face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, set a Metalfoes spell or trap directly from your deck. Now you can play 3 of all of these 4 cards, have 12 copies of the exact same card in your main deck, and that gives you a lot of consistency. On top of that, we play 3 copies of 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝑑𝖊𝖓 once per turn, and this is a hard once per turn. When he's destroyed, during the end phase of that turn, you can take a Metalfoes monster and add it to your hand. So, correction, we have 15 of the exact same monster because he has the same Pendulum scale ability as well, and now we have another scale 8 as well. So, 15 monsters, all with the exact same ability. What are we doing with that? We are fusion summoning. So, this is essentially polymerization for the theme, but it recycles itself from the graveyard to your deck to draw you a card once per turn. And then this thing doesn't recycle itself, but full Metalfoes Fusion is a quick play spell. So essentially, you use this to trigger your trigger effects or allow your quick effects to be active during your opponent's turn, and that helps you basically as a trap card for the Metalfoes theme. You do have 2 trap cards for the deck, but they aren't so much trap cards that interfere with your opponent as much as full Metalfoes Fusion is. So combination and counter are both supporters that give you more cards. Combination's a continuous trap. Anytime a fusion monster is summoned by either person through fusion summon, you can summon a Metalfoes from your grave that has a lower level than that monster. That comes in handy, just recouping you a free material. And then Metalfoes Combination's other ability is, even if it's face down, if it's just on the field and dies for any reason, you can replace it with a Metalfoes from your deck. Essentially, it's a rota for the theme. And then counter gives us 2 cards. The first time is when a card you control dies for any reason, you can special summon a Metalfoes directly from your deck. And then anytime this wasn't just sent to the graveyard that turn, you could banish it during either player's turn to take a face-up extra deck Pendulum Metalfoes monster and add it to your hand. So that's 2 free cards in 1, and that helps you keep up your resources. So just between these cards here, normally you go for a fusion summon using 3 cards. So you have your fusion spell and the 2 monsters. Well, Metalfoes Fusion recycles itself, so it's 2 for 1. That's kind of like a link summon, synchro, Xyz summon, whatever, which isn't bad, but could get better. And just looking at combination and counter, they're going to give you at least 1 card most of the time. So now you're back down to a 1-for-1 trade. On top of that, we have some really good fusion monsters that actually get this deal to an even better level. And we're starting off with 3 copies of Metalfoes 𝗵𝗏𝗄𝐿. This is a level 6 with 2600 attack, so very nice stats. She needs 2 monsters to summon a Metalfoes and a Pendulum monster. And if you've been keeping track, all 15 of our Metalfoes monsters we talked about are both of those. And you can even use another copy of 𝗵𝗏𝗄𝐿 if you want because she's a Metalfoes as well. So things to keep in mind. 2 main abilities with her. The first is that she recycles 2 of your Metalfoes cards in your graveyard to your deck to target any card on either side of the field. A lot of times it's going to be your opponent's annoying monster that can't be destroyed. where it's going to be your own face-up card, like a Pendulum scale that you want to reuse, or maybe a Floodgate you want to put back and reset so that you're not locked out. Lots of different combos you can do with this card, and it's just amazing in that it makes your deck efficient because you can just play one of each of your spells and traps, recycle them, don't have to bog your deck down with them, and at the same time, you're able to go and make sure you don't run out of steam, get rid of your opponent's cards that are annoying, or combo off with your stuff more, reuse them so you don't run out of steam that way, and then make use of its 2600 attack. The second effect that she has is anytime she's sent from field to grave for any reason, even by fusing her away or popping her with your own cards, you can take a Metalfoes Pendulum from your grave or extra and then special summon it. Now we have a monster that straight up replaces herself anytime she's used for a fusion summon or whatever. So, you know, that 1-for-1 trade gets even better if you keep Mithrilium in the mix, or if you just went for Mithrilium, Fusion replaces itself, Mithrilium replaces itself. Awesome, you have a 1-for-1 trade and you got rid of your opponent's card or comboed off with one of your own cards in the process of recycling your guys. So that's why Metalfoes Mithrilium is so good. 3 copies of this because a lot of times you do fuse proactively during your return for Mithrilium using one. So that's already going to use up 2 of these. Let's say you get one Ghost Ogre or Solemn Strike or something. You really want the 3rd copy to make sure you have abilities to recycle these later, and that ensures you do not run out. If you play 2, it's very risky. 1 disruption will screw you over. If you play 3 copies, you're almost never going to run out. So that's why we play that. And then through Metalfoes combination, we have the ability to take advantage of Metalfoes Orichalc. So Orichalc is a level 8, which is awesome for combination. It needs 2 Metalfoes monsters, which again works with any of these guys. It lets all of your Metalfoes attack with double piercing damage. So kill your opponent through tokens, because just like Chaos Max Dragon, it does 2800 twice. And even if you have like a Metalfoes Mithrilium next to it, you're going to be able to do 2600 twice through a defense monster with 0 defense. Combination's nice here because if you use Mithrilium and fuse into Orichalc, Mithrilium visited the graveyard, so she special summons a Metalfoes Pendulum monster from your grave or extra. And on top of that, combination brings back this level 6 monster because it's less than the 8 you just special summoned. So now you end up with 3 monsters, which is quite nice. And then anytime Orichalc hits the graveyard, he also replaces himself in a way by killing a card on the field, and that removal basically hinders your opponent's plays, takes them down if they try to take this guy down, which is pretty nice. And you could just proactively fuse Orichalc as well, and that will also trigger that destruction effect to help control your opponent's field. And on top of that, we have a copy of Alcahest. So Full Metalfoes Alcahest is pretty cool and pretty annoying. You need a Metalfoes monster and a normal monster, so that's most of your main deck Pendulum monsters. But on top of that, you can use Metalfoes Mithrilium or Orichalc as your Metalfoes monster, and then he gained their abilities as well, which is quite a nice combo. Can't be summoned except by fusion summon, which is kind of lame because now we can't combination, even though he's a level 1, and you would think, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Alas, we can't do that. But the 2 things that we can do are, once per turn, during your opponent's turn, you could take any effect monster that's face up on the field and steal it, equip it to this card, kind of like Relinquish. As a quick effect, now your opponent lost their combo piece or their boss monster and they can't fight you. And then he does have the combined defense of all the monsters equipped to it, so, you know, you'll be able to get around your opponent's plays. But then the second big ability is you can fuse anything equipped to this card as a material for your Metalfoes summon. Essentially what that lets you do is steal your opponent's combo piece, and now you can go fuse that with one of your Metalfoes, including even Alcahest, and go for Adamante, which is just a generic Metalfoes plus any monster with 2500 or less attack. You play 1 copy of this just because of the Alcahest, and that'll basically let you make the most out of the monsters that you steal from your opponent so that you're not burning off your monsters and your other cards for your fusion summon. You can already see a lot of free cards going on through here. That's actually why I really like playing not 1 but 2 full Metalfoes fusion. And the reason for that is it's very easy to set one of these things and then set another copy of this thing during your turn. And you can't play them that turn because it's a quick play spell. But now you go for, let's say, a Mithrilium during your turn. Then you fuse that Mithrilium for an Orichalc with one of these. Okay, so now you got this. Now I can fuse either of these guys for an Alcahest, trigger these guys to either gain more materials or get rid of one of my opponent's materials. And now I can steal one of my opponent's cards as well. So that gives you a lot more control over the game than if you just play 1 copy. If you play 1 copy, you could still get away with it in a lot of instances because Mithrilium will recycle it during your turn, essentially making it so you can go for your Alcahest or whatever. But what I found is with Pendulum summoning being restricted to number of zones you have open with link monsters, I actually kind of like the second copy of Full Metalfoes Fusion. That's more of a personal preference thing. I really do like it because of the nature of these fusions. So now that we have half of our deck all taken care of with just the main Metalfoes cards, it's time to make the other half get us access to this core as consistently as possible and to augment the deck's abilities. So first thing, I like playing Emergency Teleport. It's of course at 1 copy right now. This thing helps us get a second Pendulum monster out in addition to our normal summon, which will help us go for Heavymetalfoes Electrumite, which I'll talk about in just a little bit down the line here. But yeah, 𝗍𝗇𝖊𝗓 is just a flexible card. It also lets you tech in Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit during your side games if you'd like to do that, or potentially main them. I kept them out of the main just because of consistency. I did want to make sure that I see Metalfoes all the time, but that's a nice little bonus you can get off of Emergency Teleport. Then 2 copies of Painful Decision. This thing is a hard once per turn. That's why I'm not playing 3 copies, otherwise I probably would be. Basically, it lets you take a level 4 or lower normal from your deck to grave, and if you do, add another card of the same name as that from your deck to your hand. And so that's really cool in that it's able to search out your level 2, 3, or 4 guy, and that gives you a lot of control over which scale you want, which Metalfoe name you want, things like that. So that basically serves as 2 additional copies of a Metalfoe. And then Summoner's Art does the same thing. It lets you get your Metalfoes Full Flame directly from your deck, which is a scale 8. And on top of that, it also lets you make use of Scout and Monolith. So Scout and Monolith are pretty cool here. These are, level 5 or higher normal monsters, so you can add them to your hand. Essentially what you do here is you Summoner's Art for a Qliphort Scout, activate it, pay 800, add this to your hand. This is now scaled. You pop this from your scale to put it into your extra deck, you search whatever card, and now if you can set up the other scale, so you have 1 and 8, now you're able to go Pendulum this from your hand, Pendulum this from your extra deck, and with the 2 of these you could do a few different things. First thing is, of course, hey, 2 level 5 machine monsters. I can go for Cyber Dragon Nova and Cyber Dragon Infinity to have a boss monster that can steal my opponent's cards or negate my opponent's cards, and that's a pretty good board securing monster that we can go for. I do like playing the Cyber Dragons and stuff from the previous builds of this, but another thing is now we have 2 Pendulum monsters, so now you could actually just go and link summon into your Heavymetalfoes Electrumite. So now it's time to talk about this thing. We're playing 2 copies of this card. Remember, this is Heavymetalfoes Electrumite, so you're actually able to use this as a Metalfoe monster for recycling, for fusion summoning, whatever. It all works in this deck, which is a nice little bonus. It needs 2 Pendulum monsters to summon, 1800 attack. Yeah, it's pretty good for a link, I guess. It's not the best, but it's not bad. And has 2 diagonal arrows, which is awesome because that opens up 2 zones for you to Pendulum summon into. And then it has 3 powerful abilities. First, upon summon, take any Pendulum card in your deck, put it face up in your extra automatically. Oh, that's pretty cool. So now I can Pendulum whatever I want from my extra. But it gets even better because once per turn, you have the Metalfoes-like ability to pop another card that's face up on your field. And if you do, take one of your face up extra deck Pendulum cards from your extra deck to your hand. Wait, but didn't I just put whatever I wanted from deck there? Yeah, so now you can go and add that to your hand. And its third ability triggers only once per turn, and that's a hard once per turn, but it's the only restricted effect on this thing, is when a card in your Pendulum zone leaves, the first time that turn you draw 1 card. So now you end up popping a card to recur a card, so you lost nothing just like a Metalfoe effect, but you drew a card so you gained an additional card, which is very nice. So we want ways to bring this guy out as effectively as possible, and that's going to happen through our little Qliphort engine here, which also plays through, the Summoner's Art. That just gives us more Metalfoes. So you start off with 15 Metalfoes, you end up with 2 Painful Decisions and 3 Summoner's Art, so that's essentially 20 Metalfoe monsters once you get your searches going. And then the Scout engine is very consistent in getting us either this guy or getting us out the Cyber Dragon support. So more Pendulum monsters we can play are Archfiend Eccentric. This thing is basically Spell or Trap removal or monster removal. You can go and kill your face down Metalfoes combination. That lets you go and trigger the search for whatever Metalfoe you need, so that's pretty solid. She's a Pendulum monster, so you can bring her back or use her as material for Electrum, or you could even go and use it through Electrumite, just add it to your hand or add it from deck to your extra, do whatever manipulations you like with that. And if she's on the field because she was Pendulum there or normal summon there or whatever, you could tribute her to destroy a monster, much like Exiled Force back in the day. So very flexible card, and as a scale 7, that gives you even more of the top heavy side of things. I kind of do miss Astrograph Sorcerer here a lot because that used to be a scale 1, which kind of balanced things out, but at least we're able to use Eccentric in order to get out whatever other Metalfoe we need, thanks to the combination. And then another thing we could take advantage of is Rescue Hamster, 3 copies of this thing. So this is scale 5, which isn't very useful as a scale, to be completely honest. Sometimes it works though, because I guess it lets you hit either your high or low end scales. So it sometimes works. Usually you're not focusing on that. The main reason you play this are its abilities. First, if this card is scaled, you can banish it to target 2 monsters of the same name face up in your extra deck and then add them to your hand, which is really, really cool. Actually, you don't even target those, you just add them to your hand, which I guess helps a little bit extra in case, you know, there was like 𝗉𝗍𝗔 or something trying to prevent things. I don't know how that card works, so maybe that doesn't even matter here. But essentially, you get to add 2 of your Metalfoes Gold Drivers to your hand, or your Steelins, or your Volflames, or whatever. Just pay attention, make sure you send 2 of the same name to your extra deck, and you can add them to your hand. So now your 1 copy of this thing ends up becoming 2. So a typical play sequence with this card is go for your Electrumite, and then go and take a copy of Hamster, put it face up in your extra, pop another card, so you add this to your hand, you draw a card as well, and now you take your Hamster, banish it, you add 2 more cards to your hand, so just between those cards, you've gotten 3 cards into your hand, which is quite nice. And then the other ability, because the scale effect is only once per duel. The reason we play 3 of these things is because he has another useful ability. If this is normal summon this turn, and you have a face-up level 5 or lower Pendulum monster in your extra deck, which is most of them, you know, everything except Volflame, you're able to go and tribute this card to choose one of those level 5 or lower Pendulums from your deck, and then special summon 2 guys with the same name. Their effects are negated and they're destroyed during the end phase, but it's very easy in Metalfoes to make sure you have, you know, just 1 copy of a card in your extra deck, and then go and just summon out 2 more copies. Since those are Pendulums, they will let you go and summon out Electrumite, because you just go and link into this thing. So very flexible card. I definitely like that. It helps us get into our Electrumite. And then Rescue Rabbit is very similar. You just normal this thing or Pendulum it. You can't special it directly from the deck, which is a bit of a shame, because you would be able to do that with Summon Sorceress. But what you're basically able to do is normal this or Pendulum this, banish it, and then get out 2 Pendulum monsters, and that's an easy way to make Electrumite. That's why we're playing that. Plus, I just like 𝗿𝗔𝖊𝖊𝖏𝗃, because that's just a hilarious name to me. And then the last cards in our main deck are going to be 3 copies of Baobaboon. Upon normal summon or special summon, draw 1, and then you get to take any card from your hand and put it on either the top or bottom of the deck. Then if this thing dies for any reason, you could summon any number of Baobaboon from your deck. So a lot of times what happens is you summon this, return one of your spells and traps you'd rather search to your field as a free bonus anyway, put it away, and then you draw it. Then you pop this thing, bring out 2 of these guys, and then the cool thing is each of these will activate in sequence if you want them to. So you can draw 1 more card, put it away, draw another card, put it away if you want. Now you have 2 guys, so you can make a proxy dragon with these. You can go ahead and pop 2 of these through another Metalfoes Searcher, and then maybe through Electrumite. It basically makes it so you don't lose cards in your pops. So I really do like it for that. And by playing 3 Baobaboon, because of that mulligan ability on the 1 card, you're actually able to play that second copy of full Metalfoes Fusion, put them away, and you'll be able to search them. Since you're playing 5 Metalfoes spell and traps in this deck, draw a cycle with those. It fixes your hand. It helps your consistency. So I like it for that reason, consistency, and I like it for it's a free chump block for your Heavymetalfoes Electrumite. So those are the reasons I like that. And then one more cool thing I want to talk about as I go into the extra deck is this interaction here. I mentioned it in the intro briefly, but if you have a Heavymetalfoes Electrumite and then you go and fusion summon this guy, this is a psychic monster, this is a psychic monster. So what you go and do is link 2 plus a link rating of 1 will let me go and summon Sorceress. Mithrilium's effect will activate, allowing me to bring out, let's say, you know, Metalfoes Volflame from my graveyard. Let's say I use that as a fusion material, right? Okay, so now this is a psychic monster, so now I can go ahead and summon another monster that's a Metalfoes because it's a psychic monster from the deck in defense position. Doesn't have its effect, but I don't care. I just want to use this as a fusion material, right? And now I have, you know, the ability, maybe I want to pop this thing because I no longer need it and I don't want my opponent to have his own. Now you have 2 monsters you could fuse with and then 2 arrows that are open that you could summon into. So I really do like Summon Sorceress in this deck. The downsides do nothing against you, but you're able to take perfect advantage of the fact that this is a link to you're going for every game, probably every turn, and then another psychic monster that fits right in the theme that replaces itself when you go and turn them into Summon Sorcerers. So I do like that combo. And then the last 4 cards in the extra deck, just some generic guys. So I already talked about Proxy Dragon. This is easy to go off of Baobaboon. I did choose this over something like Underclock Taker just because you play so many vanillas in this deck, you wouldn't think it matters most of the time, but Proxy Dragon does help in just those rare instances. Plus, remember that protection ability can destroy 𝕵𝖆𝖇𝖑𝖊 or your Mithrilium or whatever. And that's pretty cool because that's able to go and protect your entire field in exchange for, you know, just a weak guy that you'd rather have killed anyway. One Nightmare Phoenix, it's just like a generic MST type of a card. If you destroy a spell or trap your opponent controls by discarding a card, that sends a Metalfoe to your graveyard that you can actually use to recycle. Sometimes you need to do that because all of your monsters go to your extra deck, so it just gives you a little more of controlling ability over the game. So I do like that. This Nightmare Unicorns, much like Mithrilium, and then you have 𝗿𝗏 Dragon just because it's a big boss. Usually you don't want to invest in really big link monsters. It would be nice if Summon Sorceress could be used to go for 𝗿𝗏, but unfortunately we can't because you need 3 effect monsters. 𝗿𝗏's one of those rare exceptions in this deck where you're willing to go for this thing if it helps you steal games because it's just that powerful. So yeah, that is the extra. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the update to this Metalfoes deck as much as I did putting it together. We'll start off with the main deck here, so we end up having just 3 of every one of the Metalfoes, so Ghouldriver, Silvered, Steelin, and Volflame, and 𝕵𝗔𝖓𝖊𝖓 as well. Then we have a mini Qliphort engine with just 1 each of Qliphort Scout and Monolith. Then we have triple Archfiend Eccentric, triple Rescue Hamster, triple Baobaboon, and triple Rescue Rabbit for a very streamlined monster lineup. And then on top of that, for spells, we have 𝕿𝗇𝖊𝖓𝖐, 2 full Metalfoes Fusion, bumped that up for reasons I explained in the deck. Then we have Metalfoes Fusion, double Painful Decision, triple Summoner's Art, and then 1 each of Combination and Counter for a 40-card main deck. And then for our extra deck, we have first Metalfoes related cards, 2 Heavymetalfoes Electrumite, 1 Alcahest, 1 Adamante, triple Mithrilium, 1 Orichalc, and then for generic cards, we have Nightmare Phoenix and Proxy Dragon as link 2s, Nightmare Unicorn and Summon Sorceress as link 3s, 𝗿𝗏 Dragon at link 4, and then we have the Cyber Dragon Nova and Infinity package to go off of our Qliphorts. That's the end of this video, but if you'd like to see more of this series, you can click the annotation on the right, or you can see the last video I did by clicking the one on the left. If you enjoyed, I encourage you guys to leave a like and share it with others you think who may enjoy it as well. And if you'd really like to see more updates, then subscribe to JDGaming for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks guys, this is JDGaming, hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll see you guys next time.